So I watched Shannon's conversation with Luke Jansen. Are mind and soul the same thing? And it's a really pretty interesting conversation. This is just my first take on the subject. There's a follow-up that I'm going to do. He's in a debate with somebody on the same subject. I didn't quite understand. He and Shannon, or he seems to be a Christian, and he seems to also believe that consciousness is some sort of emergent property. Now, just a quick side note. If you are interested in the subject, there's actually a really good debate on this between Matt Dillahunty and Eric Hernandez. Can we prove a soul or something like that? Same idea, same subject. Now, if you're an atheist, you'll probably like the debate a lot. Why? Because by all accounts, everyone in the comment section seems to think that Eric Hernandez got his clock cleaned, that he just got totally demolished in the debate. Now, that may be true, but he brought up a couple of really, really interesting points, and I watched the debate about a month ago, and they've stuck with me ever since. Because what we seem to be discussing is what is called in some areas the hard problem of human consciousness, and what Eric Hernandez, called the irreducibility of human consciousness. That's really what we're discussing. Because to the untrained casual observer, me, the conscious agent, it appears to me and every single person listening to me that there is something essentially, at essence, and this is where the idea of the soul comes. There seems to be something uniquely, essentially me. There is me, the conscious agent. Now, the naturalist, and Matt Dillahunty makes the argument for the naturalist side that will argue that it's an emergent property. In other words, Shannon doesn't quite argue this in her discussion because it's not really a debate. I'm pretty sure she would believe it, but I don't know that she actually ever argued it. But so in other words, an emergent property means it's, you have H2O, hydrogen and 2 oxygen, and the emergent property is wetness. So there's something that just emerges out of complexity. If you add another layer of complexity, another enzyme, another protein, another layer of complexity here, and somewhere along the way, poof, human consciousness appears. Now, not only does this not seem very plausible, subjectively speaking, this isn't an argument, I'm just saying, the reason why so many people, why it's even called the hard conscious problem of human consciousness, is because it doesn't seem not only possible, it doesn't seem not just plausible, it doesn't seem possible. It honestly doesn't seem possible. If I just add another enzyme here, another complexity here, eventually the complexity gets so much in the natural that poof, you have this mysterious thing, and what we're actually talking about is a mystery. On this, the atheist and the Christian can totally agree. It's either a mystery to science or, it's a mystery, period. What is this thing that happens, that emerges, this human consciousness that gives me the ability to perceive as my own agent? It doesn't actually seem possible that can emerge out of naturalism. It seems to be, by definition, miraculous, that it requires some type of divine spark to light it. Now, atheists will argue with that. I understand that. This isn't an argument. This is just an observation. That's why atheism is going to make only so much progress, because it does seem subjectively to we the people who are in fact human beings and persons and have consciousness, that there is something irreducible about it. The way Eric Hernandez framed it in the debate, which I thought was a really excellent way of showing it, is that I have a wife. God forbid anything should happen to my wife and she is now in a coma. She gets hit by a car and she's now in a hospital. God forbid. She's still my wife. I don't all of a sudden go, my wife is gone. My wife is still there. There's something mysterious and essential and irreducible about her reality. Now, the argument or the analogy that Shannon uses to counter, and I've talked about this in my videos, Deconverted Man, here's the perfect example. Deconverted Man is the only one who quibbles with me all the time on this. She used an analogy, Deconverted Man. I understand the point of her analogy. If I get the point she's trying to make, I need not quibble with the details of the analogy itself. Matter of fact, I can come up with 100 analogies to better underscore what she is saying. She used something from, I guess she learned in psychology class. There are 1,000 different examples that underscore this, but the essence of it's not really a counter argument because they weren't debating, but the essence of the question she asks is, okay, there's this guy who has a certain type of brain trauma. You're saying, Craig, that there's an essential personness, and even ShannonQ, okay, even an atheist like ShannonQ, a total atheist, right? There's something very Shannon-like about Shannon, is there not? Aren't most of her behaviors, almost routinely very Shannon-esque? She doesn't seem to be interchangeable with other conscious agents in the world, right? Am I right? There seems to be an essential personness to each and every one of us that seems unique to each and every one of us, that seems irreducible. Again, if my wife got hit by a car, God forbid, she would not be my wife because she's on life support and can't speak. She'd still be, in some way, that essential personness. Shannon has this essential personness, even though she's an atheist. Like I said, most of her behaviors are pretty Shannon-like. They are. They're very Shannon-esque often. Even Deconverted Man, the most atheist who ever atheist, the most atheist who ever atheisted on God's green earth, has characteristics that are very distinctly Deconverted Man-like. They really are. They seem essential and unique to Deconverted Man. In some ways, he seems like his own special, beautiful little flower. Yeah, Deconverted Man even is his own special, beautiful little flower. Why, that's beautiful, Craig. I know it's beautiful. It's called life. Live it. No. Even Deconverted Man, like I pointed out, I won't do it again because I pointed out twice in my videos, but even the way he goes about scoring the ladies, very unique to Deconverted Man, is it not? I'll do one more time. Okay, so Deconverted Man shows up. He goes, yo, what's up, girl? Deconverted Man here. All right. That's right, sugar bitches. Deconverted Man in the house. That's right. That's right, ladies. That's right, ladies. It just shows up like that and he scores all the ladies. That's unique to Deconverted Man. That seems to be a unique attribute. Part of his very essence of Deconverted Man. It's part of his very Deconverted Man-esque. So even atheists like Shannon and Deconverted Man seems to be their own beautiful little special flowers that have unique properties that are essential to them and are irreducible. Irreducible. Now, Shannon brings up the objection. And like I said, she brings up an analogy that underscores the point. Okay, so there's this guy somewhere, I forget where she learned it, psychology class or something, and they teach it to first-year psychology students. Some guy has some form of brain trauma, and he seems to become essentially a different person. Now she's saying, does that not prove, in a way, she didn't say it in the debate, but doesn't that prove that there isn't a soul? No, it doesn't. It just proves what we've been saying the whole time. This is essentially mysterious. I'll think of a better example so we can underscore the conversation better. There was a President, Ronald Reagan. You may have heard of him. Okay, he was president, and you might not know this. Last 10 years of his life, he was stricken with Alzheimer's. Now, Ronald Reagan had a very distinct persona. There was very distinct personality. And the last 10 years of his life, that all but vanished because certain parts of his brain organic brain disease. So the essential qualities of him disappeared. And people who commented, secular people commented, as if his very soul disappeared right in front of our eyes. It's as if this disease destroyed his soul. Now, there's nothing in the Bible or any scripture under the sun. This is just mysterious, okay? I'm just pointing out this is mysterious. These aren't arguments about God or anything. It's just food for thought. Yeah, just chomp your little chompers on this, food for thought. There's nothing in the Bible, anywhere, that says in any way, shape, or form there is a spiritual world and nothing you do in the natural world can ever affect the spiritual world. Nothing. So we're already both in agreement that this is a mystery. That human consciousness itself is at least a mystery. I would argue by definition miraculous. Most Christians, most believing people of all shapes and forms would argue by definition miraculous. Now, atheist says that isn't necessarily true. That's an assertion. Fine. It's fine. I withdraw it. It's just an assertion. It's an assertion that seems true, that I experience as true. I experience directly all the time my very essence. So do atheists. So does everybody listening to me. And there does seem to be something mysterious about this. There's nothing in a Bible or a scripture or any holy book to make us think that you cannot upend order in the natural world and it has no effect on what we are calling the spiritual world. In other words, there's a spiritual Craig Reed that would be my soul. And it seems to be something real because there's an essentially Craig Reed-like attributes to all the things I do and say. And they have a lot to do with things I've experienced in my life directly and things like that. There's nothing in the world to make me think that you can't take actions in the natural that would harm or impede that spirit aspect. Nothing. Nothing to make. Matter of fact, the Bible would teach us exactly the opposite. Think of it this way. And a different analogy trying to underscore the point. If there were a Jewish girl somewhere in late 30s, early 40s, and the Nazis came and took her. She's an 8-year-old girl, and they came and took her. And they put her in a concentration camp. Let's say she even survives that concentration camp. There's nothing in the Bible to make us think that a disease or destruction in the natural cannot actually destroy or affect the spiritual realm or the soul. So if the Nazis came and took an 8-year-old girl, put her in a concentration camp, it's not hard to imagine that they destroyed her essential personhood, correct? Destroyed it. There's no way that person is going to grow up and be exactly the same type of person as if she had not had the experience that they are enforcing upon her. Correct? So there was something essential and an essential personhood to that person before they got a hold of her. Then they go and they put her in a concentration camp. They have basically destroyed her soul. They've destroyed that essence, no matter how that ends up, even if she survives the experience. They put her on a totally different trajectory to become not only a totally different human being, but a totally different kind of human being. By their actions in the natural. There's nothing to lead us to believe that you can't harm the natural world without affecting things in what the Christian would call the spiritual realm. That's it. It's just a mystery. Now, Shannon's questions are obvious. Well, what decides when you can? And, there's a lot of questions that leads to, but these are just mysterious questions. That's it. That's all they are. That's all they are. They don't underscore naturalism as correct. They don't. They don't point to natural. Oh, okay. So you can damage some parts of somebody's brain, and therefore you lose the essence of that person. That seems to be true. What Shannon said is true. You can do that. Okay, it doesn't mean that there isn't some sort of essence of that person now. Matter of fact, even the way she's framing it is kind of implicitly insisting that there is some sort of essence of that person. Hence, what on earth did we damage? Even the way she would frame the question as a naturalist implies there is some sort of essential personhood about that person, or what on earth got damaged. So he's a different person who acts differently. Who cares? Something is relevant about that, because there's something in essence at issue. Now, I don't know if that was perfectly crystal clear. I'm not really sure it matters. This is my first take on the subject. It's a really actually pretty interesting subject. So I'll have the link to the Eric Hernandez debate. The Eric Hernandez, the way most people think he got routinely killed in that debate. Fine, whatever. The team lost. Oh my God, oh big deal. But he made some really cool points. That's why I like what he had to say. For example, that point right there. It underscores only one thing to keep in mind. There's an essential mystery to this, and that mystery doesn't go away because we've figured out, the scientific sequencing process that makes this reality. How it becomes a reality and what is animating the process is really what's at root and what the mystery is. And by the way, just a word on it, you can't just assert atheism into the lack of understanding. You can't have an atheism of the gaps either. Atheism of the gaps, what it is. I don't understand, Craig, therefore what? Therefore atheism. Therefore atheism, right. No, it doesn't work like that. there are actual potential real-world evidence of an immaterial part of the human consciousness that survives after death. We know them as near-death experiences, right? Now, I haven't looked into them myself. Why? That doesn't really interest me. But they're out there. And apparently, now I don't know this for a fact because I've never looked into them, but apparently some of them are really convincing or really well documented or pretty thorough, and they point to that mystery again. Now, again, atheism of the gaps. Atheists already got the easy answer. Oh, the brain chemistry, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't seem to work like that either. Go look at the studies and see for yourself. But let me caution you the way I cautioned you in the past. If you're an atheist looking into the evidence, and by the way, if you're asserting that there is no such thing as an immortal soul, there is no such thing as life after death, and you are just asserting it, and you haven't already looked into near-death experiences, which, by the way, you probably haven't, just saying. Bring your A game to the table or sit down. Go look at the near-death experiences. And like I cautioned in the last video, do not waste your time on the unconvincing or the least plausible ones. Do not deal with Buford from Montana. Oh, I could have sworn I was dead for 6 days. I know for a fact I was dead for 6 days because I wasn't breathing or nothing. And I went down to Hades and I talked with the devil himself. Say, don't bother with that guy. Atheist being atheist, you're probably going to center your whole research on it. See, I told you Christians are all crazy. Do not center your research on the least convincing ones. Jump immediately to the top 5% of the most convincing one and the most well-documented and throw the rest out. Why? They aren't relevant to the study. What you should be doing if you're an atheist who actually cares about what's true instead of just asserting, actually cares about examining the evidence, say there's no evidence for life after death. Apparently there is. That's my point. And apparently some of it is really convincing and really well documented. I don't know that for a fact, but that's what I've heard. Go look. Google it. There's one guy who used to be a neurosurgeon who started out as an atheist and had some sort of near-death experience, and now he's a believer of some sort. Not a Christian. He didn't come to the team, so it's not even a victory for my squad. So you can go look at it with an open mind. Go look at it with an open mind. I have no idea if his story is compelling. I have no idea, but he's a neuroscientist and was from a pretty... It's either from MIT or somewhere like that. Now he writes books and lectures, and he's some form of believer. Wacky doodle belief, doesn't matter. He's not an atheist anymore because he had some sort of convincing near-death experience. All I'm saying is you can't say there's no evidence for near-death experiences. Apparently there's tons. And apparently some of it is really compelling. So go check it out. Further your knowledge on the subject. You know, you get really incensed when Christians assert without evidence, which, you know, sometimes we do. Not me, but the rest of the guys do. Yeah, the rest of the guys do. Shut up, you do too. You do too. Not me, the other guys do. Sure. But then you assert without evidence too. I saw in the comments a lot of atheists. There's basically, this debate is over, case closed, and I sincerely doubt any of them checked near-death experience. I'd be amazed if any of them have. Because apparently some of it's really compelling information. So, anyways, that's all I'm going to say on the subject for now. Watch Shannon's video. It's really pretty good. It's pretty interesting. And, I'll come back to this time and time again. I think it's actually a really interesting topic and it potentially very fruitful. So, there you have it, kids. That is all for now. Mass is ended. Go in peace. Amen.